Hi, I'm Fred McNeil, and you're watching QAC TV 7. There are 3,353 veterans in Queen Anne's County, according to the last census, and we're trying to get as many on TV as we can so you can get to know your neighbors, get to know what they did in the military. We got some great stories, and it's called Thank You for Serving. Mike, thank you for serving, and thank you for being here. How about introduce yourself to the camera? Just tell them who you are and where you live.
Hello, my name is Mike Oldham. I live here in Centerville, and I served in the Marine Corps for 26 years.
Now, Mike, how long have you lived in Centerville now?
Just about a year and a half.
Okay, and we've been talking about small town USA, right?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, in cities, we say hi to people on the streets.
Yeah.
We know half the people on the streets. I go to New York with my kids, and I even talk. They said, "Dad, you're going to get shot." Nothing against New York, but you're going to get shot.
Yeah.
Well, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Michigan.
Oh, where in Michigan?
So if anybody out there is from Michigan, they know.
Are.
Well, then you all know what I'm about to do. When you
Okay.
say you're from Michigan, you go, I'm from right here, right? You put your hand on the mitten, right?
Southeast.
So just north of Detroit,
okay.
a small town called Roseville. And some of the people might have heard the movie called 8 Mile.
Okay.
Well, I grew up on 11 Mile.
Oh,
So
okay.
every mile there's a mile street.
There's a mile street.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know?
I used to coach at Notre Dame, and we used to go. You're going to have to help me here. It seemed like an hour and a half trip would have been Lake Michigan from South Bend to. Does that sound geographically correct?
That is.
And one of the biggest shocks of my life, Mike, I was an Atlantic Coast guy. As we approached Lake Michigan, sand, people in bikinis and bathing suits. I kept smiling. No salt.
Oh.
It's a fresh, right?
Salt free.
But beautiful. And there's a beautiful shopping center we used to go.
Great fishing.
Oh, okay. So now, high school, sports, theater, what'd you do?
No theater.
Okay, that's all right.
So baseball, football.
Oh, what position baseball?
Baseball, I was a catcher.
Oh, I used to catch, and I coached at the high school.
Yeah.
Best sport in the world still.
It's a romantic sport, I like to call it.
Mike, I always liked it because you could sit in the dugout and you could talk about, kids, what are we going to do? Who should we, what cutoff man should we hit? That type of stuff.
Yeah.
Just baseball or others? Or?
Football and basketball.
Oh, what position's football?
Tight end.
You're built like an old-fashioned 50s, 60s tight end?
I love playing tight end.
Blocking, cracking down on the linebackers?
It was, well, and going out for passes.
Okay.
I was a little taller than most people, so
you get
just
a good
jump
reach.
up in the air and catch it, and then I get knocked out.
So high school, you were a sports guy. Now, always wanted to go service? Family history of going in the service?
Yeah. Always wanted to join the Marine Corps. My dad did 30 years in the Marine Corps.
Oh, he was career.
Yeah.
So did you travel a lot?
Parents divorced when I was young.
Okay.
And he lived in Tennessee, and we grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
So
you were stable there in Michigan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So always wanted to go to the Marine. Now, what did your dad do for 30 years, do you know?
Well, he started off as a heavy equipment operator, and
Okay.
then did some tours in Vietnam,
Okay.
and then was a career recruiter.
Was he really? Okay.
Yeah.
And 30 years. He did 20 plus 10.
He did.
Good
He
for
did.
him.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
No, he's
I'm
buried
sorry.
down at Pensacola.
Oh, was he? Okay.
And a couple months ago, I actually got to go down there. I went for his when he passed away about 5 years ago. But I also went down just recently and saw his gravestone for the first time in Pensacola.
Is it a veteran cemetery?
It is on the base.
Oh, very good. Okay. So your dad was Marine. Now, grandfather or just?
No, just that's it.
And it just was in your. I mean. My dad, Army, my granddad was Army, World War I, World War II, just like McNeil men. Guess what? It's your turn now. 18, go to college or go in the Army. I went in the Army. Same thing?
Yeah, and when I was growing up, you're riding your bikes to the stores or whatever, and there was this tiny Marine Corps recruiting
in your home in Michigan.
Hut. Because remember those photo huts?
Yes,
those little things?
yeah.
That's how small it was.
You just sat in that little hut.
It was that small. It was a desk, the Marine, and then maybe 2 little chairs, and that was it. And I would always go in there about once a month. And
just talk it up with the Marine.
And then they'd have maybe like a magazine, a Marine magazine, Leatherneck magazine is what it's called. And they'd give me some of those things, and that's all I ever wanted.
Right out of high school, right to the Marines, or what?
A month after graduation.
Oh, a month after graduation. Okay. What was the MOS?
I became what they call a CH-53 helicopter. So it's a helicopter. It carries 37 people.
That's a big helicopter.
6 blades on top, 4 blades on the back. And I was started off as a mechanic, and then worked my way up to be a crew member on the helicopter.
Okay.
They call it a crew chief, and kind of like you fly in the back and you take care of the cargo, you take care of all the passengers.
You're basically running the inside of the plane.
But mostly you are you have your toolbox and you have all your.
You can fix stuff.
Yeah, that was, you made sure you could fix.
That was
you
your
service
job.
it and you do everything. Flying it was the easy part,
Okay.
But getting a plane prepared as big as it was.
I can't imagine fixing motors on it.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta always ask the Marines. Army basic training at Fort Bragg was kind of a just to get through it.
Yeah.
Marine basic training, you tell me, is it as hard as they say it is or not?
Well, I think it is for somebody who's 18 years old.
Okay.
And you have first time being away from your parents, and you don't get time off.
It's 24/7.
You got an hour in the evening to take a shower and to get your
Clean and
stuff
square yourself
and
up.
write a letter,
Okay.
and that was it. And then on Sunday you got like 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
But that was it. Where I talked to these other services and they getting weekends
Oh, we had
off.
weekends off. Yeah,
Oh.
you sit around the place.
You don't get to make a phone call.
No.
At all.
You don't get to call home at all?
No. Well, they'll take you as a group to phone
okay.
to this.
Everybody's got 3 minutes, quick.
That's it. That's
Lord.
it. So psychologically, I think it's tougher. Obviously, physically, I'm sure that the Marines do
Oh, you better.
a tougher
Yes,
physical.
much better.
But growing up in sports and
It was no big deal.
It wasn't as life and death. I'm gonna.
You can handle it. If you played football and baseball, you can handle basic
Now
training.
going out into the field, because you spent a week out in the field with
that was tough.
about a 60-pound pack, and you're 18 years old, and you got your rifle, you got all. They pushed your limits, I'll say, but being a Marine and being on team sports, it was almost the same.
Yeah.
Where you're working as a team with your other recruits because you're not a Marine.
Well, you can
yet.
just see in our Monday group, you and Bob, and I don't know who else we have as a Marine, there's a certain type of, we're Marines, and you know what, we can laugh at ourselves, but also we out-tough you every time.
Yeah, and this is not to talk negative about the other services, but Marines don't like to be called "we're in the military."
We're the Marines. Oh, I agree.
Yeah, the other folks they reference the military, which is okay.
Yeah.
But I am very proud to be a Marine.
Well, and you had the best uniform, and it was just a tough. I mean, I always thought, growing up, and even as an adult now, the Marines, there's a certain toughness that none of the other branches had. I mean, our basic training was the type of thing, if you got out of bed in the morning and woke up the next morning, you're going to get through basic training. Well, you guys were humping it.
They were pushing your limits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any particular, how about drills, do you remember drill sergeants' names, or have they all been erased?
Staff Sergeant Albritton,
Oh, you
Sergeant
do remember?
Cox.
Okay. I mean, there's something about a Marine drill sergeant, just the image, right? They were in your face, and times are different now. And military, it's the 70s. When were you in the military?
1981.
Oh, 81,
is
okay.
when I came in.
And but still the Army's, Army, I get a kick out of it. Now you can go in the Army, and after 6 weeks you don't like it, you can get out. I don't want, military's not for me. Can you imagine that when we were in?
Yeah, no.
No, it wouldn't have happened.
There's no quitting.
No, so you go through basic training. What was the attraction to helicopter repair and helicopters?
My recruiter, he was a Huey crew chief.
Okay, so he'd done it.
And I thought that was the coolest thing. And then my dad was actually my recruiter's boss.
You're kidding me, your dad was? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So, although 11th and 12th grade, I moved down to Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
So that's why the connection there.
Okay.
Got a little bit too much for my mom to handle. Anyways.
You were a young boy, right, with a mom. That's tough.
So, and I was reading these pamphlets about, if you join combat arms, infantry and artillery, you get a bonus. And I was like, hey, Dad, I can get this.
Money.
He goes, son, you
No
want to be
way.
in the air wing, or I'm not signing for you, because I was still 17 when I signed up.
You don't want to be an 11 Bravo. I don't know if that's what the Marines call it.
Yeah, I was 17, and then I stayed, throughout my senior year, I was in what they called the delayed entry program.
Okay.
And thank you, Dad.
I was going to say, he gave you mighty good advice, didn't he?
Thank you, Dad, yeah.
So you leave basic. Where was the first duty assignment?
So I went to, let me tell you a quick little story.
Please.
So basic training, or recruit training in the Marine Corps, most of folks know that over here it's Parris Island, South Carolina. And then the other side is San Diego. And my dad, when he joined from Michigan, they sent him to San Diego.
To the West Coast.
Yeah, so it's the Mississippi.
Oh,
This side of Mississippi goes to San Diego. This side of Mississippi goes to Parris Island. And since I was in Memphis, which is on the eastern side of the Mississippi, you're supposed to go to Parris Island. And my dad said, son,
no way.
You're not going to Parris Island. You're going to boot camp.
And so you got to go to San Diego?
I got to go to San Diego.
Oh, you lucked out on that. San Diego is a great city.
Well, you don't get to go out of town. Or in the bay. But the thing was, can you imagine Parris Island, South Carolina, from June 19th to September 10th?
Oh, hot and muggy and brutal.
But instead, I got to go to
the ocean breeze, right?
And so a quick story here.
Please.
I thought they were having a drought. I was there for a month and it hadn't rained once.
Yes.
And if you didn't know, in Southern California, it really doesn't rain for like 6 months.
I lived in Santa Barbara for 2 years. So I know we had the same thing.
So I'm writing my dad a letter. Dad, there's a big drought here. Hasn't rained, and the whole time I've been here. And he sends me back a letter. Son, it doesn't
That's normal.
Rain. I was like, so I asked some of the local guys, the recruits who were from California, how does that work? Because I mean,
how do things grow? How do they grow?
You're still learning. Yeah, those big sprinklers. And also, there's a marine layer that comes in, and that helps a lot.
A lot of moisture right off the coming back and forth off it.
So first, so you go to your schools. I went to back to Memphis area. Millington is Navy base for a helicopter basics course, and then
how long was that?
It was only like
a month.
Weeks.
Like
a month.
Short course.
It wasn't long at all. Yeah. And then I went to El Toro, Tustin, California, Orange County, and there was a follow-on school for another 3 or 4 weeks. And then my first duty station, I was chosen to go to the President's Helicopter Squadron.
Back here?
In Quantico.
Really? And, that's quite an honor, right?
Oh, yeah. I was very, very, very privileged. It's called HMX, HMX-1, first helicopter squadron the Marine Corps had. Helicopter Marine Experimental. So they also do some test and evaluation on new stuff.
New type of helicopters.
But primarily what their job is to move the president around.
So you're doing repairs on the president's craft. Oh, that would have been it.
Yeah, so you start off on what they call the green side and the white side. So the green side, you have regular CH-53s, and then there's CH-46s and Hueys.
Now, is that what we see the president boarding on the new? No, that's different.
Nope. So you start off on the fleet helicopters.
Okay.
And you'll move the lieutenants that are going around Quantico as they're going through their officer training there. And then you might do, how could I say it, just training for pilots and stuff like that. But also what happens is when the president goes somewhere, he'll have his helicopter, which is called a VH-3D.
Okay.
And it's been around for over
These aren't brand new helicopters. No, these aren't, right?
No, these are like 50-year-old helicopters, maybe older. Now they've been reworked and they need new helicopters.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Anyways, so
you're in the crew. You're working your way up the ladder here.
So I'm on the green side. I'm not on the white side with the president's side. And I'm on the green side. And then when the president goes somewhere, he went down to like Williamsburg.
Okay.
We would fly the 53s down to Williamsburg, and then the White House press corps would fly on our airplane, the 53s, and then they would, the president's plane would take off, the White House press corps would get onto the 53, and then we would take off and land first, so they could get on and take pictures of the president
coming off. Okay.
Marine One. So, Sam Donaldson was on my plane.
Oh, you met all the biggies, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, would you meet I got to ask, did you meet the president? You don't meet the president. Oh, you do?
I'll get there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're learning your way. You're meeting some of the press corps. You're kind of the advanced crew, so to speak.
You're just a guy on the airplane.
Just a guy.
They do their thing.
They're here, you're there.
Our job is to move them places.
Oh, okay.
We're not.
Good duty? I mean.
Yes.
Or spit and shine, or spit and polish, or a
lot.
I mean, the president's helicopter and plane. It seems like you don't screw around. Pardon my language.
Yeah. So on the green side, then once you get your top secret clearance, then they move you over to the white side.
Okay, so you have a top secret clearance, not just secret. A lot of people, I had a secret, but top secret is tough to get.
Right. So you get your top secret clearance, and then now you're on the presidential side. And then on that side, you would take different heads of states from other countries.
Okay. So visiting.
So they would come in on Andrews, and then you would pick up the head of state of Mexico or the Queen or whoever it was, and you'd fly them over to the reflecting pool.
Okay.
And there'd be a band there.
Oh,
and
a ceremony and everything.
Right. And then there was these.
Let me go back. Who was the most, at that point in your career, who was kind of the most interesting person you met?
Well,
or saw.
You saw them. They don't talk to you.
Yeah.
Probably the Queen.
Oh, the Queen, Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So you land there, and then they'd have all the services color guard, and they'd march them through there or walk them through there, and then they'd go away, and then you fly away. And then you would fly the vice president a lot, and at that time, because I was with Reagan. So the older Bush was the vice president, and we would fly to the reflecting pool, at the Naval Observatory in D.C.
Which is the vice president's house now, right? Yeah.
And we would pick him up and then take him to Andrews or wherever.
Oh, really?
But also when you're working with the president's side, when he went out to Santa Barbara to his house, we would fly the helicopters 3 days
all the way to
get
Santa
there.
Barbara.
3 days to get there.
Okay.
And then we'd get our planes all cleaned up and maintenance done, and then Air Force One would come in, and then we would pick them up.
You go pick them up and take them to the ranch or whatever you call it.
He would land at a base called Point Magoo. Then we'd take him up and put him on at his ranch.
At any point, is there any? I mean, with Ronald Reagan, did they ever come up and say, "Hey, thank you"? I mean, that type of stuff, or what?
Yes.
Yes.
As I matured in there and got older, I became.
What rank? What rank were you at this point?
Sergeant.
Okay, so you're in E5 or above. Yeah. Okay, all right.
So at this point, I made my way up to being what we call the Marine One crew chief, and I was President Reagan's crew chief, and I would fly him, be like the primary guy to be the crew member, the crew chief for him. And every time he got off the plane, hey,
very
how
personable.
you doing? How you this?
Now, we go back. A crew chief with the president. Now, obviously, the maintenance is part of it, but do you interact with his staff, or no? He just gets on the
Secret Service kind of gets in there in your business a little bit here and there.
Okay.
We were into Camp David. He liked going to Camp David.
Yeah, get away.
And I loved going to Camp David. It was basically a weekend to relax for myself.
Oh, wow.
And it was about a 45-minute flight.
From D.C. now.
And think of and in Maryland is where
beautiful,
Camp David is.
Beautiful country.
And in the fall, flying over there.
Oh, gorgeous.
So we were there, and one time after Grenada invasion, he actually kind of used us young guys to talk to the media without talking to the media.
Oh, really?
So he got us young Marines and Navy guys, whatever, and I'm sitting right here, and I have pictures of me and him shaking hands. And he started talking to us about what happened in Grenada, and the timing of it and everything like that. And obviously the press is listening to this.
So they're talking to you, but it was going out to the press in many ways. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So he very personal. You found him very personal.
He was exactly who you think he was.
Now, when you were at Camp David, were there accommodations? Did you actually stay on Camp David? Oh, you did. So there was enlisted officers' barracks and that type of thing, or just military facilities?
Small barracks there with a little
good
gym.
Duty Camp David?
It was a quiet and peaceful.
Oh, okay.
And
a weekend retreat, right?
Yeah, and there was a place where you can go running. There was a gym. There was a little chow hall.
It's like a little mini town for the president in many ways, right?
And he liked to ride horses.
Yes, yeah.
And to tell you one time on how personable he was, we were at not Camp David, we were at Santa Barbara on top of his ranch. And at this point, the only people there are Secret Service and the helicopter crew. And he's riding his horse out there with Nancy, and I'm out there with my airplane, working on it a little bit. He looks over at me and he just starts waving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's
the President of the United States waving at me?
I mean,
he was that type of person.
Yeah, he didn't have to do that.
Well, he was a people person, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of his politics, whether you like it, dislike, doesn't matter. He was obviously a very nice person.
Yes.
And again, so you're doing that now. How many years were you in the system at that point?
I left there with about a little more than 5 years in the Marine Corps.
Oh, so you're still, I mean, you're still young and...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're a sergeant at that point. Where did the career go after that?
I went out to Southern California in a base called Tustin, and it's next to a bigger base called El Toro, right in the middle of Orange County, California. Sure. And now I'm in the regular Marine Corps. Okay. And I'm like, oh, this is a little bit different here.
Yes, it is. It's a real league, right?
And I actually will tell you that time there, that 3 years that I had there and 2 deployments to Okinawa, Japan, were probably my best 3 years of the Marine Corps.
Now, you're married at this point? Still single or what?
At this point, I'm married.
Oh, so you're living on base, off base? How does it work? Off base. Okay. And why was it good? Just where you were?
23 years old.
Oh, you're a kid. You're a kid.
And I was a sergeant, and I really enjoyed working on my plane and leading people, and the sense of accomplishment every day.
And just an honor to have that. I mean, I'm not anyone who deals with the president. I don't care whether you're a butler or vice president.
The president.
Oh, this is that's right. You left. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right. Now I'm in the regular Marine Corps, and
you just enjoy it.
Just the team of people that you work with, just having a good time.
We're good. Okay. Yeah. Aviation units in the Marine, by and large, good like that. I mean, they're teamwork and
right. And a lot of it, when you deploy together, anytime you deploy together, you band together.
Okay, you stick to it's a team, like you said, it's a team. Yeah. So you're out there for about 3 years. Did you know you wanted to be a career Marine at that point? Or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was taken for granted. Okay, and your wife was happy with that. She liked the lifestyle too, right? Now, didn't you become a warrant officer and then an officer, or how did it go?
Getting there.
Oh, good. Keep going. Keep going.
So after those 3 years, I went off to recruiting duty. And
so you're an E5 or an E6 recruiting.
I'm on the E5, going to recruiting duty. And I thought that I was going to go back to Memphis. It didn't work out that way. I actually went to Anaheim.
California again?
Yeah. So, and I didn't have to move. I was living there.
You're there.
Yeah. And I spent the first 18 months in Anaheim. I did very well. I got meritoriously promoted to E6, Staff Sergeant. And then they moved me over to Costa Mesa, Newport Beach area.
Okay. Beautiful area. It's beautiful.
Yeah, lots of very wealthy parents that don't want their kids to join.
Okay.
But and then after that, I went back to the same squadron I was at Tustin, and was there for a couple more years or another deployment. And at that point, I got selected for warrant officer.
So you're an E6, and you get selected. Now, did you have to apply? Or okay.
So I applied for warrant officer. Fortunately, I was selected as an aircraft maintenance officer.
Oh, as a warrant. Oh, wow.
And then, so now I was as an E6 in maintenance control, where we had about 16 helicopters and a squadron of pilots and 200 maintainers. And your job is to schedule all the planes for flight. And then schedule the maintenance.
Pretty heavy responsibility, right?
It is.
That's a lot of people, a lot of planes, right?
Yeah. So as an officer, you do the same thing.
So you're WO1. Now, like the Army, I mean, that's an officer. I mean, you're an officer, okay? A little gold bar with a brown. What do the Marines have for a warrant one?
So it's a gold bar with 2 red squares.
Oh, 2 red squares.
And then when I made warrant officer 2, gold bar with 3 red squares.
Okay, so you went from 1 to 2.
And then I went to 3.
Okay.
And I moved into a different level of maintenance. We call it the IMA, Intermediate Maintenance Activity. Okay. And what that does is they send us the engines off the airplanes. We fix the engines.
Okay, and send them back.
Or put them on the shelf. Okay. You fix the black boxes, put them on the shelf. We have a supply department, so you get the parts off the plane, you fix them, you put them on the shelf, and they go back on the plane. And
just keep rotating them around. Okay. Yeah. So you're WO3. That sounds like pretty good duty.
I liked it.
You enjoyed it, right? You have a lot of responsibility, but just what was the major difference between being a 6 and a warrant officer? Did something stand out, or just the fact, hey, I'm an officer now and I have more responsibilities, more,
You know, it's the good and the bad. You know, when you're an E6 and you're with all 200 of your enlisted guys in a squadron, you're part of that team, you're brothers, and you're going out there. when you're the warrant officer, now you
Desk?
Well, you're still on the team, but now you're the coach.
You're out here. Yeah.
Now you're not the player.
Right.
And you can't hang out with the players like you did
It's
before.
not Joe anymore. It's Sir or that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden it changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. The role would change. Okay. I always thought the best officers, whether it was warrant or captain, major, whatever, what they call them, Mustangs, were those who had served as enlisted because they understood how, and I was enlisted, how we lived. And then when they became officers, like, hey, look at this is a kid. I'm going to get him through this, whatever the situation is. I mean, did it wear you out, or being a warrant? I mean, just the change, like you said, you weren't a team. You were a whole different.
Oh, I pretty well.
You handled it.
Very well driven.
Okay.
And kind of.
No problem.
Probably, I probably created more of my own problems in my head than I probably had.
You handled the transition quite well. Now, are you having family at this point, or what's happening in the family
I'm a
life?
second wife, no kids.
Okay. Yeah. So you're in California. You're a warrant. So you're pretty good. Now you went from warrant to
captain.
Oh, you went to captain. Now, how does that work? How does that work?
There's a thing called the Limited Duty Officer, LDO, and what that does is it keeps you in your military occupational specialty.
So you stayed on with the planes and the maintenance?
Still in aircraft maintenance, and it's just a higher level of responsibility and leadership.
Now, captain, more planes, more people to...
Well, now I'm dealing with multiple squadrons.
Oh, multiple squadrons. Okay.
And I'm the maintenance officer for, at this time I moved to support a reserve unit, actually a reserve group that had 5 squadrons.
5 squadrons. That's a lot of planes, a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. And anyways, I would communicate with all 5 squadron maintenance officers and work with them to...
How many people under you? Ballpark? 100, 200, thousands?
Maybe 600 or 700.
Oh, it's like being a principal. You got a major responsibility here, right?
Yeah. But no, they work for their commanding officers.
Okay.
They don't work for me.
Okay, you're the supply, you're the parts.
I'm logistics and maintenance and logistics.
Okay.
So I had a small crew that worked directly for me. But when the commanding officer brought me in and said, what's wrong with this squadron?
You've got to come up with it. Okay.
We need this fixed.
Now, ballparking it, about half your career enlisted, half officer?
Exactly.
Oh, you split it right in half. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you do 20 right on the nose, or what did you do?
26.
Oh, you did 26.
Yes.
Okay. What was the highest rank you got?
Captain.
Okay, and then captain in the Marines is a pretty comfortable position, I think, from an outsider.
I was very happy.
I bet you were happy, okay?
Happy.
Now, I got to ask you, we've got about 5 minutes left. How did you get to Centerville?
Since we got 5 minutes left, I'm going to tell you a different story.
Go ahead. You do whatever you want.
So from there, I went 15 years to an aerospace company.
Oh, okay. So you've got a private enterprise with your skills.
And then what I did is I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail.
Did you really?
And what the Pacific Crest Trail goes from 20 miles east of San Diego, and it goes all through California
the coast.
Not the coast.
Okay, you go in.
Through the mountains.
Okay.
Through the Sierra.
Oh, wow.
Up through Northern California. Through
How long did that take?
Through Oregon, through Washington, to the border
the Canadian border.
Canada.
How long did that take?
6 months.
By yourself, with a group, or how did that go?
I met people along the way.
You just took off.
And it was an amazing hike.
And that was just your way of debriefing from 26 years in the military, or what? Or you just something you wanted to do, another challenge?
I always loved hiking in the woods, and I just enjoyed hiking, and I just got focused on it, and
just did it.
That's all I ever wanted to do.
I got to ask you, because I was a runner, and anytime I could hike, I would. Would you do 20 miles a day, 25? I mean, how many miles a day would you do?
Usually between 20 and 25.
Okay, that's a good hike.
30 twice. And then in the beginning, you just do 15 or so.
Living on the land, or going to motels, or a little bit of both, or what?
3 to 6 days out in the tent.
Okay.
And then you go into town.
To get showered and cleaned up, etc. Okay.
Resupply.
Now, what was your wife the whole time? Was she just saying, let him go?
They were very well supportive.
Oh, good. That's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah. Now, you've got stories within stories. I got to ask, and this is from my boss, if you had to do all over, 1, would you go in the military?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
okay. 2, and we talk about this in our Money Veterans to the young people out there, you obviously had a successful career because you worked hard, you did the right things, and you're in love with what you're doing. Would you recommend a career in the military for young people?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because you will be on a team while you're in there. Where in business, you're trying to make a profit, you're trying to keep people employed, and you're trying to further your business along. But in the military or in the Marine Corps or however you want to call it, you're deployed.
Right, you're working together.
And you will be away from your loved ones.
Yes.
And so that is a sacrifice. So if that's going to be something that, is something you can't support, then that's probably not
the
a
way to
career.
go.
But you should, without a doubt, go in and do your first term.
See, I get in
see
trouble
where
with
it
my
goes.
kids and grandkids. I think everybody should do 2 years. Now,
At
if you
least.
don't want to do the military, then work in a
Yeah.
hospital, clean up the
Yeah.
parks. But invest in your country a little bit, and your community.
Yeah. Well, when I was a recruiter, we had some things that I would tell young applicants or whatever, that if you want to be a Marine, you will earn the things that you can't buy out of a store, can't read out of a book. It's the intangible skills that you can only get at Marine Corps Recruit Depot. Courage, poise, self-confidence, leadership. These are what Marines are made of, and you too can claim the title United States Marine.
Well, you can see that as we close here in our Monday meetings. I mean, we've got Air Force, we've got Navy, we've got Army slugs like me. The Marines is a subset of the whole group, right? I mean, they have, I can see the wink in your eyes and Bob's eyes and Hawk's eyes just saying, hey, look, we've got a little special mission and we don't think we're better than you are. But we know we are better than you are, which is quite all right.
I always get a kick out of when I had a Navy recruiter said I could have been Marine.
I could have.
That's the best compliment he could have told me.
Yes, I mean,
right?
it's kind of, well, look, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And thank you in the audience. My name's Fred McNeils. My time's up. Thank you for your time. We're going to see you next time.